Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is my very first YouTube tutorial, so please bear with me. Today I will be showing you how to make my very first monokini. This is going to be in a size small, and it might also work for medium just with the actual edging of the bra cup. For the actual bra cups, there are other patterns for you to make a bra cup, but I will be showing you how I make a bra cup today. And this is the small that we'll be working on, and then this is the large that we'll be working on. This is my actual size. I'm showing you both sizes so that you can see how the edging is, how I do the edging different for both sizes. But the demo size that we're going to be focusing on today is the large, and I'm only going to be bringing in the small, like I said, when I show you the edging. So stay tuned, and thank you again for tuning in. To begin, I start with a medium 4 yarn. My favorite yarn to use is Big Twist, mainly because it dries really, really fast. It is acrylic and it washes very well in the washing machine. I have not had any problems whatsoever with this yarn, and the color that I'm using is denim blue. It is just so pretty, and I always wanted to see what it would look like in a finished project, so that's why I chose that color. The hook we're going to be using is a 4.5mm hook, and of course a pair of scissors. To get started, we're going to make a chain, and this is for a large. Like I said, there are other patterns that you can use to make your bra cups. I tried my best to actually get the exact numbers for each size. For my size, I wear a large, and it can also be for extra large. I did a chain of 21 with plus 2 for my turning chain, so it's 23 for my bra cups. For small, I would suggest maybe a chain of 15. For medium, I would do a chain of 19, and for an extra large, I do a chain of 23, remembering to add 2 chains for your turning chain. So I'm going to make my chain now. And now I have my 23 chains. And we're going to go into the third chain from the hook. And we're going to go in with a double crochet. And for this row, we're just going to place 1 double crochet into each stitch. When you reach this very last stitch at the end of your chains, you're going to place 3 double crochet stitches into that same stitch. And if you like, you can place a stitch marker on the second double crochet just so that you don't lose your place, and you'll always know which one is the middle, because we will be placing 3 double crochet in each middle stitch. For the sake of the video, I will be using a stitch marker, and then we're just gonna double crochet all down this edge here. And if you can see these little holes, those are where you'd be placing your double crochet. I like to weave in my tail as I go along, so I'm just gonna lay that flat. Sorry, I'm just gonna lay that flat, and I'm gonna go into this first opening here, and I'm gonna double crochet down the other side. And as you can see, our tail is all the way weaved in, pretty much just one more stitch and it'll be completely hidden. This is my other side. You see it's completely hidden. That's my trick to not having to weave in any ends at the end. That is definitely not my favorite part. And the end is going to be right here. You see where we have our chain 2 or our turning chain, the last is going to be right here at this end. So if it looks a little uneven, trust me, it's not. And now we have reached the end of our foundation row. And to start row 2, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and you're going to start in the same stitch here. We do not count the chain 2 as a double crochet. And then you want to double crochet back up this entire row until you get to the stitch marker. So keep going and double crochet into each stitch, and I will meet you back when we get to the stitch marker. We have now reached our stitch marker, and I want to show you what we do here. We are going to place 3 more double crochet into this stitch here. And what these 3 double crochet do is keep a like pointed edge where as though it actually turns and forms the cup. As we get a little closer to the end, you'll start to see it cut off. And then we're just going to continue to put 1 double crochet into each stitch until we reach the end. Also, if you're making a small or a medium, you do not have to use a 4.5 hook. You can actually use a 4mm or 3.5. I find that sometimes when I'm working with patterns where they're not extra strict about the yarn size or the hook size, or sometimes if I don't want to go outside of the project, they might just be showing a medium or a large or a small. If you change the hook size, sometimes you'll be able to do the same exact pattern as the tutorial is showing, and you'll end up with the same exact result. So we have reached the end of this row, and to start row 3, and remember that the rows are counted as long as you go around. So this is 1 and then this is 2. And we're going to continue on with this pattern of chaining 2, turning our work. We're going to continue to just place 1 double crochet into each stitch until we get to our stitch marker. And once we get to our stitch marker, we're going to put 3 double crochet into that top stitch and then continue to crochet all the way down until you get back to this corner. And you want to keep going around until it fits the full circumference of your breast. For me, I do 9 stitches altogether, with the 10th stitch being the stitch that I put the picots on. So for this large size, I did a total of 9 rows altogether. And then this 10th row is where I added the detailing. For a small and a medium, I did 8 rows, well, 7 rows all around. And then the 8th row being the row for the details. We're also going to be attaching our straps, both straps, on that last row. So just continue to increase in your rows until, again, you reach your desired length. For a small and a medium, that will be 7 rows. For a large and an extra large, it will be 9 rows. So I'm going to continue to work on my cup until I get to my 9th row, and then I will show you what to do for your next row. Now you should be done with your rows. If you're doing a small or medium, you should have done 7 rows. A large, you should do 9 rows. And for the extra large, you could do 9 rows. I'm sorry, you guys. But if you need extra coverage, you could do 11 rows. It's always going to be an odd number of rows you do. Your even number will be the row with the detailing. So for us to start our picots, or at least that's what I call them for the sake of this video. I'll just call them bubbles. But we're going to do a chain of 4 and turn our work. And you want to slip stitch into the same stitch. And that creates our very first bubble. And you're going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. And on that third slip stitch, you're going to chain 4 again, slip stitch into the same stitch, and it creates another bubble along the edges. Slip stitch 3 more times, chain 4, slip stitch into the same stitch, slip stitch 3 times, chain 4, slip stitch into the same stitch. So we're going to keep this same pattern sequence for a size large and extra large. So for a size small and medium, you're only going to slip stitch twice, because at the end of, by the time we get to this middle part where our stitch marker is, you want to have a total of 10 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you'll have your string here. And then you're going to have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bubbles on the other side. So that is going to create the detailing we need and also start us off for this next piece. So it is very important that we have 10 on each side. So again, if you're doing a small or a medium, you want to just slip stitch twice instead of 3 times. For the people who are doing a large and an extra large, you want to continue to slip stitch 3 times. So I'm going to continue on, and then we want to continue with this pattern until we get 2 stitches away from our stitch marker. So we're going to continue 1, 2, and 3. Sorry. Chain up 4. Let me adjust this a bit. Slip stitch into the same stitch. And this next one will be our last one. Okay, now we have a total of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. And we are indeed at our stitch marker. And my apologies, it's not 2 stitches before the stitch marker, it'll be 1 stitch. So we're now going to remove our stitch marker. And we're going to create 2 slip stitches. Our second slip stitch will be into that middle stitch. And now we're going to make a chain based off of how long we want our middle strap to be. This strap will be the strap that closes the bra cup and tightens around our breast. I like to make a chain of 75. So after you have your desired amount of chains for the strap, we're just going to single or half double crochet all the way down. I prefer to do a half double crochet, so I'm going to add 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do my first half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. And just half double crochet all the way down the hook. Y'all, I apologize so much for my stuttering making this video. Once again, this is my very first video. I have no idea why I'm nervous because I'm literally in this room by myself. But bear with me and feel free to leave me any helpful tips in the comments or give me any trial and error feedback you may have. If you can hear me correctly through everything. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in. So we're going to just half double crochet all the way down until we get back to the end. I've now reached the end of my chains. So I'm going to place my last 2 half double crochets. Don't forget to do this very last one here. And we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch we started in so that everything, this entire strap, is placed into just 1 stitch. And everything we did for this side, we're just going to do in reverse for this side. So we did 2 slip stitches before our chains, so we're going to do 2 slip stitches again. And then we're going to chain 4, slip stitch into the same stitch, 3 slip stitches, chain 4, slip stitch into the same stitch, 3 slip stitches, chain 4, slip stitch into the same stitch. And what this will do is make it completely even on both sides. So we have an even number of 10 here, and then our strap, and then an even number of 10 on the other side. But what we're going to do differently from the first side is instead of making that last bubble, we're going to leave 2 stitches on our hook so that we can start our next strap. So I'm going to finish doing my bubbles down this side, and then I'll meet you at the end. You want to leave 2 stitches on your hook so that we can do our next part, which is the strap that goes around your neck. Okay, now we're at the end of our row. If you are left with 3 stitches instead of 2 at the end, just slip stitch into this next stitch here. That's what I did. I was left with 3 instead of 2, but that's perfectly fine. And then we're going to slip stitch into this next stitch. And then we're going to do another chain of 75. And now we're going to add an extra 3 chains. And then we're going to double crochet down this chain, and we're going to start in the 4th stitch from the hook, and just double crochet down the entire chain. Now I'm at the end of my chains. I'm going to place my last double crochet in this last stitch here. And I'm going to slip stitch into the very last stitch on the row. And it lays it down really flat, really perfectly. And now you have your whole completed bra cup. And from here, we're just going to keep going, and we're going to work on the back part, which is just a netted fish. I forget what you call this. I'm having a brain fart. But to start this, we're going to leave where we finished off. We're going to chain 3. This chain 3 counts as your very first double crochet. Then we're going to start doing our grid stitches, and these are where we're going to go inside of. So we're going to go in between each of these double crochets that we made. So our first one is going to be here. We're going to chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and once you get to the end here, you want to make sure you do not place your final stitch inside of this picot, but rather in this little hole, this little space right before it. And it creates the backing that is the exact same size as the side of your body. The next row, we're going to chain 3. We're going to chain 4. Turn our work, and we're going to skip this. This chain of 4 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. So we're going to go right on top of each of these double crochets, not in the chain spaces. And then we're going to make a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet on the top of every double crochet stitch, and place a chain 1 in between each double crochet. And once you get back to this chain space, we're just going to place a double crochet in that second chain from the top. And then we're going to continue to do these rows exactly. We're going to chain 4 at the beginning of each row. And then we're just going to place a double crochet on the top of each row. On the top of each double crochet. I did a total of 10 rows. And this is for all sizes. Of course, if you need to, you can always increase the amount of rows that you do. I find 10 to be enough for a good stretch that will cover your entire back. Because we do this on both sides, it adds a nice amount of width to your back panel, but also making it where so it isn't too tight. At the end of these rows, we're going to go into the third chain from the bottom, because that first chain of 3 should have been 4, but it isn't going to mess up anything. If you've already done it, you do not have to frog. Again, I did a total of 10 rows, but if you need extra width, you do want to do at least up to 12. I would not do more than 12, because then when you go to tighten it in the front, you'll have too much room and it won't be as tight. The entire point of this bra cup facing sideways is so that you can tighten it on each end. It's upside down, but the point is so that you can tighten it on the middle and at the top. So when you tighten it in the middle, it pulls your breast up a little, and then the straps at the top, you can adjust them to pull them up more, but you cannot adjust the back. We want all of our adjustments to be made on the front. This is a front tying monokini, so you will not be able to adjust the back at all. So make sure you are measuring your width. Measure the full size of your back, and then for each cup, you want to crochet the net long enough to just reach the half of your back. Because when you do the other panel, we're going to end up sewing these together so that it can create the middle, the seam for the back part. So again, I'm going to do a total of 10 rows. You all can do as many as you choose, but my suggestion is to do 10. And I will meet you back here at the end of our 10 rows so that I can show you what to do next. I've reached the end of my 10 rows. I'm going to place my last couple double crochet. And now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to cut our yarn. But we're going to leave a nice amount of yarn for us to sew up the 2 sides. So now we have the full bra cup with both straps. The next part we're going to work on will be the part that shapes off at the body. This is why it was important to have 10 bubbles on each side. So we're going to work into 7 of these bubbles, and we're going to leave 3 so that it makes a really dainty shape when you put it on. After you tie up everything, it'll pretty much outline your stomach in a really sexy, dainty way. To begin, we're going to make a slip knot. And this very first bubble, we're going to go inside of this. We're going to go inside of all of these bubbles, at least the first 7. So put your yarn, your hook into. Now we're going to make a chain of 6. The first 4 chains count as your first triple crochet, and then the next 2 chains is your chain 2. So we're going to place a triple crochet into this next bubble here. And then we're going to chain 2. We're going to place another triple crochet into the next, chain 2, a triple crochet into the next, chain 2, triple crochet into the next, chain 2, triple crochet into the next, chain 2, and then we're going to triple crochet into the 7th one, and that'll be the last one. You should now have these really spaced out gaps. They're very different from the ones we did on the back side. We kept those close together and tight so that it would give us a nice stretch for the back, but still kept it tight enough to make the front tight and raise our breasts. This part, we're going to have it kind of loose. That way it creates that pretty shape when you pull it. And we're going to chain 6. Turn our work. Get this first stitch here, and we're going to go into this next on top of the last triple crochet, chain 2, another triple crochet, chain 2, and just keep placing those on top of each triple crochet, chain 2, chain 2. Once we reach this chain of 6, we're going to put a triple crochet into the 4th chain from the bottom, and it creates this, like I said, very spaced out netted look. For a large size, I did a total of 8 rows going down, and I believe I did the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can do about 6 to 8 rows for a small. Honestly, you want to do the amount of rows that it takes to reach from the bottom of your breast all the way down to where your bikini line starts, but you want it to reach that stretched out a bit. It isn't going to stretch too much because these are chains, but the point of this is so that it can get attached to the top of the bikini line. I'm going to show you. This is the original outfit I have here. And basically, it's a little twisted, but you get the gist of it. Basically, what you want to do is you want to have it start from the bottom of your breast to where your bikini line is so that it can get connected to the very end of your bikini line. So I did a total of 8 rows because that is about as long as my torso is, from the bottom of my breast to my bikini line. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna chain 6 and I'm gonna continue to make triple crochets on the top of these other triple crochets until I've reached my full 8 rows, or however many rows you're doing for the length of your torso. I highly suggest maybe trying the cup on. It might be a little hard to do in the beginning because you might only have one side done. I highly suggest doing both sides before you start this bottom part. If you aren't comfortable with just, guessing it, like if you don't know your measurements, because I've been making myself crochet clothing for the last 3 years, I know my exact size. But again, for anyone else, I would suggest taking a measuring tape and just measuring the bottom of your breast to the top of your bikini line. And it'll give you the most perfect measurement. That is how I do every crochet outfit I wear. I try them on as I go, and then I write it down along the way so that if I have to make it again, I can go back to it. But the best crochet pieces are based off of exact measurements. At least that's been my experience. Trying the clothes on as you go definitely makes up for not having a pattern. And then as you write it down along the way, boom, you have a pattern. So I'm going to do my last 4 rows here, and then I will meet you back at the end to show you what to do next. I'm now placing my last triple crochet at the end of my 8th row. And we want to chain 1 and we want to cut our yarn, fasten off. So you should have something that looks like this, that has the back panel, the top strap, the middle strap, and then this strap here, which will be our body, and this will be attached to the bottom, the top of our bikini bottoms. And it should look the same exact way as if you made a small or a medium. It just would have a smaller cup. Again, you wanted to make this part as long as your torso goes. And now what you want to do for the next part is do the exact same thing. You want to make 2 of these. It is important that they are the exact same. And then when you have both parts, I'm going to tie this front part just to show you what it will look like after it's all said and done. And this is how it ties off at the front. And then these 2 come in on the sides to form this sexy part for your stomach. So when you have both parts fully done, we're going to move on to the bikini bottoms part. So for the next part, grab measuring tape because that's going to be very important to have. Now I'm going to show you how I crochet the bikini bottoms. To start, I always make a slip knot and crochet 10. The reason why I crochet 10 is because the average circumference of a woman's lower area is between 3 to 3.5 inches. And when you crochet a chain of 10, the width of the 10, and at the end, I always go around each edge, so it gives it an extra inch around. That's why I do the 10, but you're free to measure yourself and make the amount of change you need to. But I'm going to start off with 10. And then I'm going to add 2 for my turning chain. And we're just going to make a double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook and double crochet all the way down. And we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and we're going to do the same exact thing. Double crochet down the row. We're going to do 3 rows of just double crochet, no increases, no decreases. We're starting on the front of the bikini, by the way. Chain 2, turn your work, and we're going to do 1 more row of just double crochet. And I'm going to show you why I do this later when we start the back panel. I like to crochet where as though you don't have to cut yarn as much, but you still get a nice stretchy fit. I'll explain that more later on. Now we've done our 3 rows of just double crochet. We're going to chain 2. Actually, we're going to chain 3. I'm going to show you 2 methods. When you're increasing on each row, you can either chain 2, turn your work, and place 2 double crochet, and that just gives you 2 double crochet, and it gives you a little bit of a edging on the sides. Or you can also choose, sorry, this slipped off. You can also choose to chain 3 and let that count as a double crochet, and then make 1 double crochet. So this is how I'm going to choose to do it this round. For this pattern. So we're going to increase in the very first stitch and the very last stitch on this row. And on this last stitch, we're going to double crochet twice. And the reason why I showed you the 2 different methods of increasing is because when you increase on the other end, it's going to look like this. And sometimes you want it to look uniform on each side. I prefer the chain 3 method only because when you do the chain of 2 and then go into the same stitch twice, if you're doing the outer edging, it adds extra width to it, and I don't want it to do that. But you're free to do whichever increase you want to do. I was just letting you know that there is a difference, and there are 2 different methods that you can do. So to start row 5, we're going to chain 3, And from here on out, we're going to chain 3 at the beginning of our rows. And we're also going to increase at the beginning and the end of all of our rows from here on out. And I'm going to do a total of 12 rows. Because this is for the front panel and I don't want it to be too big. I want it to just match my circumference, which is 9.5 inches. But I'm going to do a few more rows with you guys so that you can just get a flow for the pattern. So we did our chain 3 and then we're going to make a double crochet into that stitch, and then just 1 double crochet in every stitch going across. And then the last row, our last stitch is going to be this chain 3, and we're going to place our double crochets, 2 double crochets in the top of that chain 3 space. And as you can see, it's beginning to make a triangle. It's going to keep going out. The more and more you increase, it's going to start going out like this in a triangle. And that's exactly what you want. I'm going to do one more row with you. So chain 3, turn our work, and we're going to place a double crochet in this stitch. And again, this is 2 double crochet. So that is our increase, and place 1 double crochet. And remember, always remember that our last stitch is going to be this. Our last stitch is always going to be this 3 chains, and we're going to place our last 2 stitches into this chain 3 space. And then we're going to start our next row off with a chain 3. So you can see the pattern, and the reason I start my bikini bottoms this way is because this chain row does not stretch whatsoever. So I now have my 12 rows, and I'm going to show you how this gets to 9.5 rows stretched. It actually gets to 10 rows, 10 inches. So I'm going to fasten off here, make a chain 1, and cut my yarn. And that is my entire front portion. And we're going to start for the bottom portion. You want to cast on right here. Again, you see these little holes. That's what we're going to be crocheting into. So you want to slip your chain right in here. You make a chain of 2. Again, I like to weave my ends inside as I crochet. So we're going to leave that at 2. And we're going to make 1 double crochet in the very first stitch. The chain 2 does not count as a double crochet. And we're going to double crochet all the way down You should still have a total of 10. And this is our 10th stitch here. You can always just get rid of these fuzzies here. That isn't really gonna hurt anything. So we're gonna do the same chain 3. As a matter of fact, the entire bikini back, we're gonna do the exact same thing that we did on this side. We're gonna do 3 double crochet rows, and then we're gonna increase every single row after. So we're gonna make a chain 2, turn our work, and just do our 10 double crochets. Chain 2, this will be our last row of double crochet. So that'll be a total of 6 double crochet rows. That will be the part that sits directly on your lady bits. And you can feel free to sew in a piece of fabric at that point. Now that we've done our 10 double crochets for 3 rows, we're going to start increasing every row now. So now we're going to chain 3 at the beginning of our rows and create a double crochet, and that will count as 2 double crochets, and place 1 in every stitch afterwards. And then put 2 on the very last stitch. Chain 3, turn your work, and do the exact same thing. Double crochet in the first stitch for your 2 double crochets, and you want to double crochet across. Remember again that this chain 3 is a double crochet, and you want to go into the top 3rd stitch. On this side it's going to look like this. You can see it better, but if it's flipped on the side, it's always just going to have the little braid flap, and you put 2 double crochet on the end, chain 3. So for your back panel, obviously you want it to be bigger than your front panel. So what I want you to do is just keep increasing for your back panel, making each row an increase row until you cover the circumference of your buttocks. I'm trying to keep the words clean, guys. But when you cover that circumference, then that's when you know you've reached your desired row amount. It's going to be a different row amount for everybody. For me, it's going to be a total of 25 rows. Once you get to 25 rows, if you know my size, my bottom size is an extra large. If your bottom size is a medium, you might want to do 20 rows, or if it's a small, you might want to do 15 rows. Keeping in mind that we are going to add a little bit of width on the sides once we do the row of the edging. So I'm going to do my 25 rows, and I want you all to count from the six. So the 6 rows of just double crochet do not count in that number. I am counting the number from when you do your increases. So your very first increase row is your very first row, and then I'm going to do 25 there. And then when I did the front panel, I did the 3 double crochet rows, and then that first increase row is where I counted my 12. So that's how you get your desired number. And where you connected for the front and the back, like I said, that is the part that doesn't stretch. And that's why we put it there. And you can always use this as a reference guide and fold it directly in half. It's going to be the exact same size for a while, only because we're doing the exact same increases, but as it gets bigger and bigger, you're gonna see that this back panel becomes bigger. So I measure my panels from where I did the connection. Once you get to your desired butt length, I'm gonna meet you back at the end of my 25 rows, and then I'm gonna show you how to do the outer edge row. And then after we do that, we can sew everything together, and then it'll be the end of our tutorial. I am now placing my last few double crochets in my 25th row, and even on the last row, even on the last row, you want to place 2 double crochets in those last 2 stitches, that last stitch. And now we're going to chain 1, and I want to show you what it looks like now. It should look like 2 triangles, one being extremely larger than the other. Let me make sure you can see the full thing. It's like a wine glass. And when you fold it, you want to fold it up row to row. And then this is what you should have. You should have bikini bottoms, just like this. And what I did was I marked off these 6 rows. That is our crotch area, because we don't want to add anything else really to it when it comes to the edging. We're just going to put the edging along these sides and these sides here, but we're also going to create our drawstrings, all 4 drawstrings, just like we did in the bra cups. So to start that off, we're going to continue where we left off. And we already chained 1. So we're going to make a chain of 50 to 75, and this is going to be for the strap on the side. So I already chained 1. All right, this is our 50 chains. I'm going to make 2 more chains. And we're going to half double crochet all the way down. You can choose to double crochet. I just feel like it makes it a bit thicker than you want it to be. So I'm going to half double crochet all the way down, starting with this 3rd chain from the hook. And just half double crochet until you get to the end of these chains. Now I'm at the end of my chain, so I'm going to put my last half double crochet here. And now you're going to see each row where there is a double crochet. We're going to crochet all along the sides just like we did for the bra cups, going inside of these little holes here. If you do not see a hole like this one here, you can always go up under the crochets. So that's basically where the holes are going to be. And you want to make sure that you can see them and that you're going directly into them, because you want to mimic everything for the next side that we're about to do to this side. So with this first hole, you want to slip stitch, which is basically laying your drawstring. And with this slip stitch, we want to chain 4 and slip stitch right back into there, creating our very, very first bubble. And then we're going to do something a little different than we did on the top because we had actual stitches. This time we do not. So we're going to go into these holes, but we're also going to go up under the stitch as well. So we're going to place our first slip stitch up under the stitch. That would be 1. The next stitch would be in the hole, and then that would be 2. And then we're going to chain 4, slip stitch back into the same hole. Now this is going to have them very close together if you choose to have them this close together. If not, you can slip stitch 3 times, and the third would be up under this flap, but I'm going to keep mine relatively close together. So we're going to slip stitch again up under this stitch, and then we're going to go into this hole here, slip stitch, chain 4, slip stitch back into that same stitch. Okay, that's exactly how you do it. So we're going to go slip stitch here, slip stitch under the stitch, chain 4, slip stitch back. So each of these bubbles are going to be landing up under or next to a double crochet stitch. And you just want to keep this pattern going. Slip stitch 2 times, chain 4, slip stitch again into the same stitch. The amount of bubbles that you have on each side honestly does not matter. We're not working inside of these bubbles, so they're really just for the look. So if it is uneven, you do not have to worry about frogging anything. Just do what makes your heart happy. If you want less, just single crochet more stitches. And we're just going to do this pattern until we reach our stitch markers. Our stitch markers are placed at those 6 rows of just straight double crochet. And when we get to these stitch markers, we're going to do a different stitch. Like I said, this bubble stitch will not be on my crotch area. I just don't want it there. So I'm going to keep going until I get to this first stitch marker, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I have now reached my stitch marker, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. You can see how I have one bubble right before the stitch marker. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and I'm just going to single crochet along this line here, and we're going to go into these holes, of course, and up under as well. We're going to place our very first single crochet here, and then go up under this next stitch with a single crochet, and then into the hole with a single crochet. You only want to create one single crochet into each stitch, that way you're sure you're not stretching it out. But you want to make sure that you get every hole so that it does not end up like gaps. And how you go and underneath of these double crochets is how you make sure it is still, it isn't gappy at the end. So you're just going to single crochet until you reach your next stitch marker. And when you reach this next stitch marker, we're going to place our last single crochet where we just took that out of. Beautiful. And now we're going to slip stitch underneath of this double crochet, chain 4, slip stitch, and we're going to just continue on with our bubble pattern. Just keep doing your bubble pattern all the way up. And once you get here, you want to place your last bubble right here. And now you want to continue to make your next strap. So you're going to chain up 50 again. And have double crochet down the entire chain. I'm going to meet you back when I get to the end of my chain. I am now placing my last half double crochet in the stitch, and right here where we have our first stitch for this row, we're going to slip stitch right into there so that again our strap lays nice and flat. And now we're going to single crochet all the way down this row and then do the exact same thing. Let me zoom out. We're going to do the exact same thing for this side that we did for this side. And when you fold it in half, this is what you will have for this full completed side. You see the detailing and the edging for the crotch area along with both of your strings. So once you single crochet down this edge, you want to slip stitch into this stitch right here so that everything lines up. You can basically see exactly where you need to put everything because of how the rows are going. Each row has a bubble, and then only the top rows here and here have the straps. For the straps, remember to just do a chain of 50 to 75, depending on how long you want them to be, and half double crochet all the way down, slip stitch into the top stitch. Once you have both of your sides completed, I will meet you back, and then I will show you how to attach the top portion to the bottom portion. Now that you have your full bikini bottoms done and you've done both sides of the detailing, you want to start attaching everything together. So I already went ahead and did this first side just so that you can see what it should look like with our sewing method. And you just want to attach it to the top portion of your bikini bottoms. I'm going to show you how I attach this portion. If I can find my diamond needle. So you want to take your diamond needle and grab a nice amount of yarn. And just weave it through. Just like that. And I'm going to zoom in a little. So where our first string is, the stitch immediately after that one, which is this one right here, you want to go inside this stitch, and then you want to grab the bottom portion of your bikini bottoms and you want to find the chains. There's going to be 2 chains and then a triple crochet, and you want to go inside of that first chain, pull it through, and just tie a knot. Normally I would have the yarn attached already so that we don't have to knot it, but we could just weave that in later. And then you want to go into that very next stitch, and then you want to go into the next chain on the bottom portion and just pull it through and go into, try not to go into the same chain, go into this next chain, and you want to go into that triple crochet and just pull it through. And you might have to look a little bit because sometimes sometimes it'll be hard to see where you went into the last stitch. So just make sure you're being careful and looking. And then we're going to go into this next chain. Come on. Pull that through. And you want to continue to just sew up these 2 sides together, pulling it through. Once you reach the end of sewing, you're going to locate these 4 chains on the end, well, the 6 chains, and count up 4, and that will be your last stitch that you sew into. So if you want to mark it with the stitch marker, that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to place my finger there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and place my final stitch right there. And I'm going to go up under one of these stitches and just knot it. I'm going to make another knot just for safety. I knot all of my projects this way. And I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to weave in my ends. I'm going to weave in my ends off camera, mainly because my camera keeps dying and I want to get this done. But this is what both sides should look like once they are sewn onto the bottoms. As you can see, it gives the exact shape around the stomach that I was talking about. And then you can fold these back over. And that is the completed monokini. And the last thing you would need to do is just sew these two sides together. The way that I do that is just taking my crochet hook that I used, locating the first stitch, bringing this through, chain one. You're going to line up all of these chains together. You're going to go inside of the chain spaces and make a slip knot, chain one, go inside the next space, slip knot, chain one, next, and then the next. So I'm going to continue on doing this, and then we